everybody, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Mike Delisio.
I'm Camilla.
And today we're taking a look at Nekojima, which is, from the picture on the front, it's a theme park for cats.
Yes.
Which makes no sense at all with these roller coasters because nothing on here is a roller coaster.
Are there roller coasters?
Yeah, look.
There's definitely roller coasters. I mean, I guess the power has to be used for something. Why
I think
not
they're
a coaster?
saying that these lines... Anyway, I didn't get this game based on the cover.
No.
I got it because on Kickstarter it looked super interesting because it looked like an actual... This looked like the first game... I think this is correct. It's the first game about cats that cats will be tempted to play with.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
We've
I
seen
would
them in
not
the
play
boxes.
this around actual cats.
Because they would go
awful.
for it.
Yes.
Because you're stacking little cylinders with ropes. In fact, let me show you.
All right, here you see the components for Nekojima. You've got this starting kind of board area here, which is broken up into 4 different districts. You've got the 3 set of denshu, as they're known, which is basically 2 of these poles connected by a string, which in this game is going to be representing cables, like power cables. And so these are the shorter cables, the medium cables, and the longer cables with poles of varying lengths in those. You've got 2 dice here, you've got some cats, you've got a level counter, and a bag that's filled with cubes that represent the different districts and the cats. We're going to talk really about the competitive game. This can be played competitive or cooperative. There's not a huge amount of difference other than in the competitive game, you're all trying to build the highest structure, get to the highest level you can. Competitive, you're just trying to not be the one that knocks the structure over. All right, so on your turn, you're going to be rolling a couple of dice, and the dice are going to tell you where you are placing your denshu on the board. Now, the die faces represent the 4 districts and these 2 special spots here, which means that the active player can just choose one of those districts, and this one means that the player to the active player's right chooses where they have to go, so they can make it a little bit more difficult on that person. All right, so let's go ahead and roll these dice. I'm just going to actually show you a few turns of this so you can see it. All right, we've got blue and we've got active player, player to the right. Let's say that they say purple. All right, so I would have to place 1 pole here and 1 pole there. Which pole? Well, that's where I'm going to draw out of the bag here and find out. It's telling me I have to place a red denshu, and so I can choose any of these I want. The only rules are that they have to go onto the associated spots, so we say blue and purple, and there's a couple of other dexterity type rules. You can never touch these cables with your hands. That would be prohibited. You can't place them upside down on the board. You can't stack it on top of itself, like so, and you cannot wrap around one of the poles. Now, you can kind of twist them and turn them in such a way that maybe you get it to a particular way you like, but you cannot actually twist them around one of the poles. All right, so let's say I just started off and I went ahead and I did something like this. Simple enough. The cable is not touching the base. These are both in the appropriate sectors and they're not off the edge of the board. That is a good installation, so I'd go ahead and pop that cube right there. Then the next player would take their turn, roll the dice, green and blue. They would draw a cube. It's a white cube, so they'd have to take one of the white ones and put it into green and blue. Now, you've got some other options here. Perhaps you want to stack on top of another. I don't know if we're going to be able to do that. We can maybe do this one. Yeah, I wanted to show you a stack. So green and purple. Now, when you do something like this, you have to stack them so they don't fall down, obviously, and you cannot have the cables touching each other, all right? So that is how that works. Let's see what happens if a black cube is drawn, all right? So if a black cube is drawn, that means that in the competitive game, you're going to give this to some other player, and on their turn, they're going to have to place a cat, one of these cats, hanging by feet or tail onto a cable of the associated color. So let's say I gave this to another player. It's their turn. They roll the dice. They've got this black cube in front of them. It's green, green, and they draw out a green cube, or excuse me, a blue cube. All right. So now what this says is that they have to place blue both in this green district, and they have to hang a cat on it. All right, so I don't love this because these are the longest cables, which is difficult to do in a same sector type of a thing, but maybe we'll try to do a little stacky stack, and we do something. Ooh, I don't know if this is going to work. Like this. Oh, I can't touch the cable. There we go. I can do something. I just knocked it over. All right. Well, there you see why I'm not very good at this game. I would have had to have tried to hang the cat on the cable as well, and that would have been how that works. But what you saw is normally how it works for yours truly, Mike Delisio. All right. Well, that's the general idea behind Nekojima. Let's head on over and let you know what we think.
You know, if I hadn't known better, I would have guessed Itten made this game.
It definitely has that feel, doesn't it? Yeah.
I mean, the back of the box and the pictures they showed of all these pillars stacked with the ropes looks so cool. Mm-hmm. I wish I could see it in real life. I'm assuming it's neat. We have never even come close to building something that grandiose on the back of the box.
Yeah, well, I've gotten, maybe not to that picture with all the lines, but I've definitely had stacks of 3 or 4
Yes, I have too.
Cylinders.
And I've definitely had to, like, place a little small one and use the big one to push it and then reach over to hopefully go under. You know, I've definitely had to do all that.
I would say that most of the times when, speaking for myself personally, when I've made the tower tumble, which, you know, you don't want if in either cooperative or competitive game, it's not from stacking. It's from doing exactly what you said, trying to go underneath another thing to try to get it to work where I'm not crossing lines, and inevitably I'm going to bump something and knock them all over. It's not the stacking thing. That usually, because they're relatively decent diameter wooden dowels, you know.
And they're all the same, so they stack nicely.
Exactly.
It's not like you have a thick one on top of thin, you know, something like that.
Yeah, the rest of the game, so where I'm not sold on this particularly is the rolling of the dice. Mm-hmm. The rolling of the dice is fine. Okay, you got to put in these 2 spots. Give me some randomness. The cube coming from the bag feels like an extra, I don't know, it just feels like roll dice, pull cube. The black cube means hang a cat. They could have totally dropped that mechanisms. Or if you're going to put cats in, put some cool, like, I actually thought the cats weren't that neat. Because they should have been like hanging monkeys. I think plastic cats would have been way more interesting.
They feel incongruent.
Right, I think that's it.
Just because of materials.
Yes.
I 100% agree with you. You've got this beautiful production, wooden dice, a thick wooden screen printed base that really you could have just done.
That's true. It's a nice little wooden board.
Yeah, and all of the pieces and the strings, it's super quality, and the cats are an afterthought, right? They're just like, eh.
They really feel like it. Like the printing on them feels afterthought. It feels like, oh yeah, we forgot cats. Hit print real quick.
You could have made them plastic, and I don't think it would have added much to the price at all.
Or even, well, yeah, probably plastic for price. But I was thinking wooden would go really
great,
nice with
it
would fit really nice. Well, I mean, so with give me a cardboard base and wooden cats.
Sure. There should also be some rule about cats can't come out till like round 3. Because in the first round, you put 2 things out, and sometimes you're like, well, I don't even know if I can get the cat to bounce on the very first string I put out. And that just feels doofusy. I don't know. The cat mechanism to me could have been dropped, but it was the thing that made me most interested in the project when I saw it.
Because it sets it apart, right?
It is the theme of the game, too, is right. You know what I mean? It really sells the theme and what they were going for here.
Except cats don't hang by their tails off wires. That's more of a squirrel or monkey thing. Maybe?
I don't think that they have the prehensile tails.
That's true,
Maybe they've evolved at this point.
Well, that's true. They're near power lines, Tom. Maybe they've mutated and they're X-Men cats now.
But the game is really basically a Jenga game with rods and ropes.
Yeah.
And you're going to like that or not. It says 7+ on here. I played it with the kids, but definitely it falls in that same category as with every other dexterity game. Some people are good at them, some people aren't. If you like, oh, I'm terrible at Jenga, guess what? You will be terrible at this, 100%.
Yeah. Yep.
I agree.
I feel like this is a game that has situational appeal. I don't think this is going to work with every game group. I don't think it's going to work even with dexterity fans in certain situations, I think this would be great at a convention. I know we bring that up a lot. It's that type of a game where you don't have to worry too much. I mean, to me, it's almost, you could drop in and drop out, not even really necessarily worry about points, just see how high you can get it if you wanted to do the cooperative type thing. You know, that's kind of what the cooperative does. But I don't know. I feel like it's a game that's even amongst these style of games, not to be taken terribly seriously. You know what I mean?
But it feels like it wants to be taken seriously.
Maybe. Yeah.
I don't know. I think I disagree. I think it says it's 15 minutes, and I think it fits that. And I think with that in mind, I think a lot of times I think dexterity, I think party, or kind of big groups, raucous, you know, trying to make it kind of push that physical limit. I feel like this is more dexterity, like, oh, it's a quick filler.
Yeah.
This is not a game night. This is a 15 minutes, we like dexterity, a couple people are there, let's see how high we can make it or compete. And in that realm, I don't think it takes itself seriously, and I think it really fits that.
Okay.
For me, I'm giving it a 6. And mostly it's because I'm not. You have to really sell me on a game that's this pricey for 15 minutes. You know, you have to sell me like at a game everyone's just like raucous fun. But it's mostly because one of the things I dislike the most in the world is untangling wires. And the going through and underneath the wires and stacking stuff. I already am not a huge fan of stacking games.
Yes.
There needs to be something more to them. This is the crux of that. So just not my jam at all. I mean, my kids thought it was okay, but even they were really thrown off by the connection stuff.
Yeah.
It really changes the tenor of the game, and some people, I think, are going to gravitate towards that.
Right.
Vassals as a whole, I speak for the clan, we're not as impressed.
I'm also at a 6.
Really?
I was a little disappointed.
I thought it would be an 8 for you.
No, I was a little disappointed by this game because, like you, my first impression of it was, oh my gosh, I want to play this right now. Right,
Yes.
it gives you this, and looking at it on the table, it looks great. I mean, but I feel like it's just missing, right? Like I would play this game, but I don't feel comfortable recommending it in a category where I can think of, you know, Tokyo Highway.
That's a good
you know what I mean? I would
comparison.
prefer to play even Crash Octopus. I would prefer to play over this, and they're even, I think, maybe even Rhino Hero, you know what I mean? So it's hard for me to recommend it. I would play it, and especially under certain circumstances with the right group, but it's a little underwhelming. It feels like it's more about the components than it is about the actual game.
So I'm actually higher. I am a big fan of dexterity games. I like the tension it builds and that the stories that come out of it. I'm at a 7.5. I would recommend it because I think it is so punchy, and that's hard to get in a dexterity game where there's so much tension and it builds through the game. It puts that in a nice short package.
Yeah.
I really like that. I think for that short, punchy game as well, having that higher level of components makes it feel more like an experience. You know, I think it's really fun as you have the different levels or lengths, of the cables, as you can't wrap it around the pole, but you can kind of turn the pole a little bit to shorten it, to get it under, and then turn it the other way to lengthen it again. I really think that you have to use that kind of 3D mind, and how can I manipulate this to get it to work in the end game? I can't wrap it around the pole, but if I turn the poles that way, it shortens it so it's not hitting the bottom. Got it. Done. You know, if I put the little one on top of the big one and the big one on the ground, that kind of levels out. I think there's a lot that goes into this as you're manipulating these pieces together. So I think for a quick, filler, punchy dexterity game, this one is one that I would recommend. Does it break any barriers? No. If you don't like dexterity games, you're not going to like this. If you want something long and like really big tension, high competitiveness, it's not going to break that barrier either. So I don't think it's going to be an exception to anybody, but for me who does like dexterity games, I liked it. 7.5.
I want to try it one time with 3D printed cats that Joey needs to make.
How about batarangs though?
I will say real quick, I don't know that I agree that if you like dexterity games, you like it. Well, I mean, obviously it's not a bigger, heavier game, because I like a lot of dexterity games, but this one didn't do it for me. For me, part of it, you said it's punchy. It's too punchy sometimes, in a sense that we lost this game a lot sometimes, like on turn 3.
Yeah.
And that's not fun. Like in Jenga, for example, as a comparison, the first 10 sticks, it's
kind of a gimme.
It's slowly growing and growing and growing. This one can fall pretty quickly, and I wasn't as pleased with that.
But you set up and do it again. I guess that's what I mean. It's like punchy. Oh, turn 3, dang, the next one goes till 7 or 8.
Sure.
You know.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder how this would do, like, you know, at one of, I'm not saying it will necessarily be part of it, but one of our cons, we've got a whole area that we use for dexterity games. I wonder how this would stack up compared to some others there.
I think
you know
it
what
wouldn't
I mean?
because there's more rules than most. Most
Yeah.
games you need like 1 or 2 rules,
That's
but
true.
who knows?
But it
Yeah.
is one I can see people playing without the rules. Just
Yeah,
talking about, hey,
that's what
let's
I'm
just
saying.
see real quick what we can do.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, that is Nekojima. Save the cats. I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Mike DeLisio.
I'm Camilla.
And the cats are on a coaster?
Barrel full of cats.